You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Do you find you're always on the go but never seem to get anywhere? Welcome to EFT for Spiritual Fitness with your host, Cathryn Taylor. Best-selling author Cathryn Taylor will tap your way from energetic overload to a relaxing state of spiritual fitness. So now, please welcome the mother of inner child work and the host of EFT for Spiritual Fitness, Cathryn Taylor.
Greetings. Again, I'm Cathryn Taylor, broadcasting live from the Twin Cities in Minnesota on Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And as you just heard, this is EFT for Spiritual Fitness. And so I like to begin every show just by talking about what EFT is, and I've also added TRE, and both of these modalities are energy therapies. They're energy therapies that work with your electrical circuitry and they work with your muscular structure. So EFT is actually a self-administered form of acupressure, and I teach you how to tap on different endpoints, and by doing that, you're sending an electrical impulse through your body so that whatever we talk about on each broadcast, whatever issues get triggered for you, whatever emotions, whatever thought processes get triggered for you, that's holding an energetic disruption in your electrical circuitry. And at the end of the show, in the third segment, I always try to do some tapping on whatever we've just talked about, because that gives you a way to neutralize whatever's been prompted and brought forth and dislodged for you. And then it also sends an electrical impulse through your body when we're saying the positive statements. The one thing I love about EFT, by the way, stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques and was developed by Gary Craig over 25 years ago. But what I love about EFT is that it gives you a way to address the negative while you're neutralizing it, and then you replace that negative with the positive. A lot of times when we're trying to work on negative beliefs, we're told to just not go there. We're told to just think positive thoughts. In fact, even the new brain science is teaching us how to rewire our brain by the mindfulness and by moving into more positivity. Well, that works if we can switch that. It works if our adult self can make that transition and make that choice to think something negative. What I'm talking about is when you start ruminating and your adult self continues to get eclipsed by what I call the inner child, the younger self, that subconscious mind, all of those promptings from the part of the brain that's called the amygdala. And what happens is it overrides any of your attempts to be positive. What tapping does is it takes the edge off of that. I like to talk about tapping and compare it to taking a gold chain that has a lot of knots in it. And if you've ever tried to de-knot a gold chain, you untie a knot, untie a knot, untie a knot, and you don't know which knot is going to finally relax it, but you get to that place and then the whole chain just spreads out. That's what tapping does, is it progressively gets rid of all the energetic disturbances and all the energetic blueprints that are hijacking you so that your system, your brain and your cellular structure is more ready to receive the positive reinforcement. So then when we move to the positive and we're tapping, that's anchoring that into your psyche as well. Now, I've recently been certified in TRE. The reason I combine these, I can't really do it on the air because TRE stands for Tension and Trauma Releasing Exercises. The reason I can't do it on the air is it is a process of 7 warm-up exercises that I have to do with you, either by video or like Skype or Zoom or in person. I have to demonstrate that for you. It's not something that transmits over the radio, but I include it because I want you to know about it. TRE is this fantastic tension and trauma releasing process where you do a series of these warm-up exercises. You build a charge in your body that allows you to engage in what's called the neurogenic tremor. Simply put, it's just shaking. But it's a dynamic combination, and so you'll hear me reference EFT and TRE a lot. TRE was developed by David Berceli, and there's a lot of information on the internet now, but you'll hear me refer to that. So that's the EFT/TRE part of this program. What we're doing is each broadcast, we take a subject and we're working on your ability to establish what I call spiritual fitness. I call it spiritual fitness because it encompasses everything. It's not just going to the gym and toning up your muscles. It's not just dealing with your inner child issues. It's not just connecting with your higher self. EFT for spiritual fitness really addresses every aspect of your psyche, body, mind, heart, and soul. And it's really all about establishing habits, establishing life-giving habits. It's about being open to all sorts of inspirations that assist you in your never-ending evolution. And why we are attaining spiritual fitness is so that you have an antidote to really combat all of the stress that you're experiencing in your world now. Did you know that stress is the #1 addiction? They have now defined stress as an addiction because there's a physiological dependency that we get into that gets triggered every time we experience that tension or that fight or flight response or that adrenaline rush. Our systems biochemically get addicted to that, and we get more used to operating on that high stress alert place. But it's not good for us. It ultimately results in all of these ailments. And so it's in our best interest to learn ways to combat that. And EFT and TRE both do that. You know, they're even now calling this stress addiction, they're referring to it as our planet having what they call post-traumatic global stress. That's how prevalent this is. So today we're going to talk about that. That is even upscored even more this time of year. There's no other year that holds more stress than the holidays, and that's universal. That's worldwide. Why? Because we're cued to do all sorts of things to get into that chaotic energy. We're cued because of an increase in expectations. And these expectations are self-inflicted, but they're also expectations that come from others. If you have children, they have a lot of expectations about how Christmas is going to be or how the holiday is going to be or what they're going to get from Santa. So there's that pressure on you to meet those needs. There's expectations that come from family. There can be expectations of reaching that deadline before New Year's. So there's increased expectations that, again, come from you internally, but also you get that from outside. There's also just the hustle bustle of shopping and planning and ordering and making all those deadlines and doing, getting the house ready, getting the presents ready, getting the presents sent. All of that stress to the hustle bustle that we can get really just wrapped up in. Our compulsivity goes off the charts, especially with eating because we have a lot more temptations. Drinking, if you partake in alcohol, then you're going to have a lot more opportunities to overdo it. But probably the one that creates the most stress is shopping, is debting, is going beyond what our comfort zone is, and yet we get clipped in to all of this stress. And so we overreact, we overspend, we overeat, we overdrink, we do everything to an excess. Now, what this triggers for some people is that it's difficult to keep up. So not only are you dealing with stress, you're dealing with the shame of not measuring up. You're dealing with the fear of not matching what you perceive others are expecting of you. For many, it's really, really a time when we feel a contrast between what we feel inside and what we're supposed to feel. Everything is so merry, everything is so bright, everything is so available. Well, if you've had any losses during this year, or if you're at a time where you're in between jobs or you have other stresses, those are illuminated much more during this time. In fact, this is a season where there are more suicides, there are more visits to the psych wards, there are more requests for medication just to manage that. Now, some of that is the excessiveness. Some of it is just social anxiety of being expected to show up for all these gatherings, for all these family gatherings and these family obligations, and flying or driving. And if you live in snowbound areas, the weather can add to it. So as you can see, we're just constantly bombarded. We're bombarded by the merriment around us. We hear all the jingles on the radio. We see the advertisements on television, and they depict all this togetherness and joy. Well, if you're not feeling that in your life, then it is even more profound in terms of that contrast that you feel. So you may feel more sad. You may feel more alone. You may feel more depressed or lonely. Again, you may feel completely overwhelmed by all of the activities, all the parties, all those obligations. If you've had any losses over this year, then grief can visit you in a new way. It may have been a recent one. So as I've talked about in the last episodes, you may be experiencing a first holiday season without someone you love. Or you may have retired. It may be the first holiday season that you don't go to your office party, that you don't have that structure. Shame can emerge big time because of not feeling good enough, not being the person that you feel that you need to be, not getting that perfect gift, not having enough money to afford the presents that you want. So you put in and you again go beyond your means. So we're going to talk a lot today about even your attitude of being more greedy and getting into that competition of keeping up with everybody else and what that does to you. The stress that it creates in you is enormous. And of course, then that results in other ailments. That's why so many people go into the new year sick. They're needing that downtime. So we're going to talk about shame. We're going to talk about grief. We're going to talk about greed and competition. But mostly today, we're going to talk about how you identify all of these obligations, how you identify all of those I have tos. And sometimes that can stimulate your rebellion where you don't want to do any of this. And so you just flatline and you don't show up, but you suffer the consequences. So a lot of what we're going to talk about and a lot of what I'm going to help you with, we'll get more into this in the second segment when I have a little bit more time, but we're going to talk about, like I said, the I have tos, the I better do it or else, the I don't want to do it, but I will, those obligations. And I'm going to help you identify what those obligations are and learn how to make some choice so that you realize that you have a right to say no. You have a right to say no and you will survive. But you also have a right through conscious choice to take the path of least resistance. What I notice is that if I think it through, if I really walk through and get in touch with the dichotomy that exists within me, that I'm much more empowered to meet these obligations without resentment if I feel like I'm doing it because I've thought it through. I'm making a conscious choice. I'm not just doing it randomly. I'm not doing it without thinking it through. I'm not showing up and then the backlash comes. And that takes a little bit of homework. It takes a little bit of tuning in and just connecting in so that you are able to, like I said, make a conscious choice. So we're going to do a meditation. We're going to do some interactive work with your inner child. But right now, we're going to take a short break. Again, I'm Cathryn Taylor, and you're listening to EFT for Spiritual Fitness, broadcasting live on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We'll be right back to do a process that will help you move from obligations to choice.
Renaissance woman, trailblazer, maverick. Those are just some of the words to describe Tashandra Poulard, owner and CEO of House Virgo Entertainment, LLC, a woman minority veteran-owned entertainment company based in Washington, D.C. Ms. Poulard served 10 years honorably in the United States Navy and departed from active duty to pursue her dreams of becoming an entertainment mogul. House of Virgo Entertainment offers script writing, producing, directing, DJ services, editing, and more. They cater to businesses, corporations, college students, working professionals, aspiring artists, and nonprofit organizations, and employ veterans of the armed forces. Tashandra Poulard is pioneering the way we view media and taking her brand global. Visit her at www.houseofvirgoentertainment.com or call 281-515-3740 and like her on Facebook at House of Virgo Entertainment, LLC. Psychologist, master certified coach, and CEO of the executive and organizational development firm TREwith Leadership, Dr. Relly Nadler brings his expertise in emotional intelligence to keynotes, consulting, coaching, and training. He is the author of Leader's Playbook and Leading with Emotional Intelligence that lays out tips and tools for effective leadership. Dr. Nadler has designed multi-day executive boot camps for high achievers in Fortune 500 companies and has coached CEOs, presidents, and their staff, and developed and delivered innovative leadership programs for such organizations as Anheuser-Busch, BMW, MCI, EDS, DreamWorks Animation, the U.S. Navy, and Vanguard Health Systems. To learn more and get your free iPhone app highlighting his tools with videos, leadership keys, visit www.TrueNorthLeadership.com today.
Welcome back to EFT for Spiritual Fitness. We're broadcasting live on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and I'm your host, Cathryn Taylor. And today we're continuing our month-long conversation about how to deal with this holiday season, how to really manage your stress so that you can move from feeling obligation to feeling choice, so that you can move from feeling fear to some sort of faith, from feeling a lot of stress and tension to really capitalizing on feeling joy. But in order to do that, you have to be solid within yourself. You have to show up for yourself. You have to be present. One of the things I always say during this holiday season is the best present you can give to yourself during this holiday season is to be present. Why? Because when you're present, when you're conscious, when you're connected with yourself, then you can navigate a lot more peacefully. You know when you're going outside of what I call your window of tolerance. You know when you've shifted from being in the inside of the storm to going to the tornadic energy. Because when you're in that tornadic energy, when you spin out to the chaos and all the stress and all of the stimulation that's out there, then your choices are random. It's not that you're not going to make some good choices, but it's going to be random. There's no consistency to it. All of the mindfulness that we're hearing about today is purposeful. And it's purposeful because it teaches people how to be centered within themselves. And that's what I want to help you with in this segment. I want you to take some notes about what I'm doing. Now, of course, if you're driving, you're not going to do that. But you can make some mental notes, and you can always come back and listen to the archive of this. You get it on www.Spreaker.com. It's speaker with an R. And that's usually available 3 or 4 days after this broadcast. So you can take advantage of that. But we're going to really work with some of those statements that you make, that self-dialogue. I have to do this. And then the rebellion, I won't do it. Well, that never gets you anywhere. You rebel, and it always then flatlines and turns against you. So then you come into that fear. No, I better do it. You get into that back and forth, that dichotomy. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. I don't want to do it, but I better do it. I don't want to, but I will. That's making conscious choice. That's shifting into a conscious ability to not be obligated, or to even be obligated, but to know that you thought it through. So how do you begin to work with this? Well, what I recommend is you sit down and you make a list of about 3 to 5 obligations that you associate with for this holiday season. In this live broadcast, I just want you to take one, and I don't want you to take the most difficult one. I want you to practice with this. So take kind of a low to medium range, so that I don't want you to get highly triggered until you have the whole process. But just what's one obligation, maybe a holiday party that you should go to, you don't have to go through to, you feel some pangs about it, but it's not life and death. It's not like having to decide if you're going to go to your families for Christmas or not. This is kind of one of those throwaways. So use that to experiment with. You want to kind of get an idea. It can be people or places that you have to visit, things that you're expected to attend, or gifts that you're expected to buy. It can be any one of those obligations, a dish that you may be expected to make that you don't want to make. Any of those traditions. Tradition's another one that you feel like you need to uphold and your heart's just not in it. So just take a few moments, take a deep breath. Just kind of come into yourself. If you've ever done what's called the thymus thump, it's right in the center of your chest. Just take your 4 fingers and just do the thymus thump. You just tap there for a few seconds, and that centers you. That brings you in to the center of your being. And when you're centered in your being, you can make more conscious choices. Now take this one obligation, this one kind of low to medium obligation. It's not going to be real triggering, but it's going to give you enough juice, enough tension to work with. And once you've got that in your mind's eye, imagine the consequences if you choose not to oblige. What would happen? What would be the worst thing that would happen if you don't oblige? Who in your world would be disappointed? Who would judge, criticize, belittle, ignore, or punish you? And what would be those consequences? Just take a moment to think about what the consequences would be if you did not oblige. And then your next question, once you figure out who, what, and where, and determine what the worst thing would be, then you ask, am I willing to live with that? Now that question is what dislodges usually a younger part of self. And that's when your meditations and your guided imageries with your inner child come in. So I'm going to lead you through just kind of a minor one so that you can begin to get a feeling for what it's like to have that inner dialogue. We have ambivalence and 2 parts of us that are in operation all the time. Anytime you have 2 different feelings about the same object or subject, you have given birth to a teeter-totter within you of the part of you that's uncomfortable with it and the part of you who wants to move forward with it. With what we're talking about today, you have the part of you that really wants to be sincere and in integrity with yourself, and may not want to get into these obligations. And then you have what I would call the inner child, or the younger self, who is afraid of the consequences. So the meditation is taking a moment to just see who that is. Who is it inside that is uncomfortable with this? See if you can pinpoint either a younger part of self or even a feeling. It's my hurt self, or it's my inadequate self, or it's my little one that's afraid of being judged or shamed. Who is that inside? Just kind of get an energetic hit with this dyad within you. And then flip to the other side of the teeter-totter. What is the motivation and intention of the part of you that does not want to go? Is it a pure intention, or is it a manipulative one? Is it a reactive one? Are you operating out of fear? Are you operating out of defiance? Both of those are still inner children, but they can be mixed up with the I don't want to do this. You want to come into your heart and really be clear with what your intention is, so that a conscious choice is made while you're standing in your integrity. Because if you're standing in your integrity, then you can take the path of least resistance. And you can even show up for some of these things because you know that the consequences you would pay internally, the backlash of giving in to that adolescent who wants to rebel, or the angry one who wants to pay back, or any aspect of you, is going to be too much. But you might be uncovering a younger part of you that's suffering from social anxiety, and to have to put that younger self through the rigorous task of showing up, it may not be worth it. You may have to drink your way through it or eat your way through it. Or you may get into financial debt, and the consequences of that, you just don't want to give yourself that stress. So you flush out this dichotomy. In response to that little exercise, you get an idea of who inside is feeling the tension, the fear, the weight of the consequences. Who inside is wanting to stand in your own integrity? Who inside is making this decision or having this reaction because, again, of fear, rebellion, anger, or shame? That's all inner child stuff. And where is your illuminated adult self landing? That illuminated adult self is that part of you who is spiritually fit, who holds that vibrational frequency of calm. Your spiritually fit part of you is standing in the center of the storm. There's not a freneticness. There's not being, spun out. There's not this tumultuous energy that's going on. There's not this tornadic energy. You know how that feels. When you're in the tornadic energy, you know how that feels. This is offering you a way to get out of the tornado. You can even have conversations with those people that you care about and say, look, I just need to make this decision for myself this lifetime, this season. I'm so into the multidimensional lifetimes and all of that I go there right away. But this is just the different dimensions of self. We're so multidimensional. Every different feeling you have is represented by another dimensional self, another vibration. And so you learn how to work with all of that. Again, that's why I love the EFT tapping, because we're going to do some of that when we come back from this next into this next segment. Is I want to take some time and do a little bit more of the actual neutralizing of this dyad that I hope you've gotten in touch with, and you'll get more in touch with if you re-listen to this. So we'll be right back. This is Cathryn Taylor with EFT, Spiritual Fitness, and stay tuned, and we'll come back and navigate through the holiday season.
Escape from Hell, A Woman's Story is a passionate book that tells the true story of author Rhonda Knutsen's journey through the darkness and adversity of abuse. The book takes readers on an emotional trail from the depths of despair to the heights of forgiveness and understanding. She was inspired to help others, and her book is a vital tool through this process. Faithful to God and devotional to her beacon of hope, Rhonda Knutsen is a perfect example of finding a guiding light that helped her come through the dark and into the light. Her book can assist you in overcoming your challenges with abuse. The publication of Escape from Hell, A Woman's Story is a triumphant achievement, and it can help you take ownership of your own experience of abuse and come through stronger than before. Rhonda is currently working on 2 more books, Shadows of Corruption and Coast to Coast on a Piece of Toast. To read more about this inspiring author and purchase her books, visit rhondaknutsen.com or go to www.amazon.com. Global Glory. That's the work of Dr. Marina McLean, COO of Global Glory, whose calling is to serve God. A first-generation British-born Londoner of Jamaican descent, Dr. McLean inherited the hunger for the Word from her father, who was a Bible teacher. Growing up, her home was filled with missionaries from the Caribbean islands and America, and she travels the world preaching the gospel. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology and an honorary doctorate of divinity and Christian counseling from Friends International Christian University. Dr. McLean is also a songwriter and recording artist, and her songs are written during summits and conferences in the presence of God. She's recorded 3 worship albums to date and is in ministry for 28 years alongside her husband, Dr. Rennie McLean, who shares her passion. Visit www.globalglory.org or on Facebook at Global Glory. Call 866-244-5679 and feel the glory.
Welcome back to EFT for Spiritual Fitness, broadcasting live on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And I'm your host, Cathryn Taylor. And if you're just tuning in, we've been talking or continuing our conversation this month on the incredible stress that we can get into during this holiday season. And I'm really trying to inspire you to do something differently this season so that when you get to December 31st, you can really be proud of how you did it differently. You can be proud of the fact that you didn't overspend, you didn't overeat, you didn't spin out, you stayed in your integrity, you stayed with your own limits, you stayed in that window of tolerance. And the way that we do that is by being conscious. The way that we do that is by giving ourselves the present of being present. Before the break, I had you do a little process where you got in touch with the part of you that really does want to remain conscious and stress-free, and the part of you that deals with the consequences of not fulfilling all of these self-imposed or externally imposed obligations. So now we're going to do a little bit of the EFT tapping. If I were working with you directly, we'd also do some of the TRE, the muscular release. But for the sake of the radio show, I can only introduce you to the tapping. Now, for those of you who have tapped with me before, you know that this is a self-administered process, and you need to be accountable for your own reaction. And what I mean by that is that I'm just giving you a self-help tool, and it's meant to help you take the edge off of your emotional state and come into a state of choice. But you have to govern if my words speak to you, or if they trigger you, or if you need to back up, or if I'm going too fast or too slow. You just regulate it. If in some of my repeats I don't leave enough time for you to speak it back or to tap, then just say 1 or 2 words. You don't have to keep up, just keep tapping. So we're going to start with what's called the setup phrase. And again, if you've never tapped with me, just listen to this as a meditation. You don't have to do any of the tapping. Go to my website when you have a chance, www.EFTforyourinnerchild.com, and go to the tab that says Interactive Tapping. And there you will find a video by Gary Craig, who's the founder of EFT, and it will give you everything that you need to know about what EFT is and how to use it. My video is called Interactive Tapping, And it just takes you into a tapping method that I've developed, which is more of a relationship tapping, where I'm not dealing with symptoms as much as I'm dealing with the part of you that feels the obligation and the part of you that wants to make a conscious choice. So I am always going for that dichotomy, that dyad, that teeter-totter between those two parts. The setup statement always gets us in touch with those two. So it starts with statements that say, even though this, even though I'm having this challenge, I want this result. So in order to do this, you just need to start, for the setups, to come to the fleshy part on your hand, bring the 4 fingers on one hand, and it's the fleshy part between the little finger and the wrist. And you're just continuing to tap until I break us and say that we're going to do the reminder points. So just sometimes it's pretty laborious and verbose. So just stay with me. We're setting an intention here. All right. Start tapping and repeat after me. Even though I have situations that are coming up for this holiday season that make me feel vulnerable, I am willing to think them through so I can make conscious choices about how I respond. So even though I have operated with such a sense of obligation in previous years, I want to try something new. I want to wake up on December 31st without a need for resolutions or makeovers or affirmations of new behaviors I commit to try. I want to seize this opportunity now. I want to make conscious choices now. I want to wake up at the end of this year in a celebratory state of mind. I want to be able to look back on this holiday season with a sense of pride and fulfillment that I did operate in integrity with myself and with others as well. I did manage my grief, my greed, my shame, my fear. I had no need to excessively act out because I stayed connected to myself in a conscious way. So even though I may feel at risk as I think this through, but I do have a competent adult self who can make the right choices, garner the support needed, and make the decisions that enable me to stay connected to myself and to those I love in a real and honest way. All right, take a deep breath, shake your hands out. If you've got some water close to you, I recommend that you take a drink because we are dealing with the electrical circuitry of the body, and water is a conduit for that. So they always say that EFT is much more effective. In fact, any of the energy therapies, in fact, life in general is more effective and easier to manage if we are hydrated. So take a drink of water. And then we're going to move now to what's called the reminder points, the end points with reminder phrases. And so these are just short little phrases. We tap 5 to 7 times on the different points. Again, if you don't know the points and you still want to tap, just continue to tap on your karate point. That'll still do some good. For those of you who know how to tap, every time I say a phrase, tap on the end point and then move to the next one. I don't call out the endpoints because if you've learned how to tap, some people start on the top of the head, some people start on the eyebrow, some people don't do the eyebrow. You do the tapping the way you learned how to do it. The important thing is that you're stimulating these vibrations through your body so that whatever this season is provoking and whatever we've dislodged in this broadcast, you can neutralize. We'll start out with a round of just neutralizing the challenges. We'll do a second round where we're introducing the possibility of change, and we'll do a third one where we reinforce. So start on your first point. All of this stress, this holiday stress, I feel so obligated. I feel so afraid. I don't have the money to buy all these presents. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. Oh, I feel so much shame about that. Every year, I compare myself with others. Every year, I'm so afraid of being judged. It takes the joy out of it. I don't make conscious thoughts or choices about how I want to honor someone. I spin out and do it randomly, competitively. I want to be seen as good, as the best. But what does that get me? I'm not in my heart. I'm not in my joy. I feel shame. And then I start blaming. I spin out and get judgmental myself, greedy myself. I'm the one that is projecting that onto others. I become the culprit because I'm not staying in touch. I want to neutralize that now. Maybe if I take time to think it through, maybe if I push the pause button, take a couple deep breaths, pray, meditate, keep up with my exercise, do my yoga, do all of those activities that keep me spiritually fit so I can stay within my window of tolerance, so I can stay in my heart and think it through. When I look at my obligations and I put them up against the consequences, I can give myself permission to do something out of obligation. If I make a choice, it's a conscious choice. I don't want to suffer the consequences. I don't want to put myself through that stress of saying no. But I have a right to say no. And I can say no with integrity, with compassion in my heart. And if the other person has a reaction and I've stayed in my heart, I don't have to take that on. I'm not responsible for those feelings. But if I do it reactively, defiantly, I can be sure to attract back a response. I can't attack somebody or be edgy and not expect them to respond in kind or to have some reaction to it. That's the plain law of attractions. What I put out, I give back. but I choose to make conscious choices. Now breathe in and breathe out. And we'll tap in the positive when we come back from this break. Again, I'm Cathryn Taylor. I'm broadcasting live on EFT for Spiritual Fitness. And stay tuned because we will wrap up the show with some positivity.
Intergenerational programming is uniting America due to the tireless efforts of Dr. Ramona Frischman. Retired from the Miami-Dade County Public School System, Dr. Frischman continues to develop intergenerational learning programs aimed to improve the lives of children, young adults, and seniors through unique strategies and public policy in order to establish a mutually supportive agenda. She views intergenerational programs as a resource for policymakers and the general public on economic, social, and personal initiatives that govern our society. Her work bridges the generational gap, providing many individuals the opportunity to explore areas of common ground and celebrate each other's diversity. Contact Ramona Frischman at ramonalong@aol.com or visit www.gu.org to learn more about intergenerational programming.
Do you ever wonder why certain things are happening in your life? How to start a business or a new direction? Need answers? Astrologer Bonnie Perbula can help you reveal your true self and gain strength and focus so you can achieve greater joy and success. Working with a natal birth date, time, and location, Bonnie brings out qualities to aid you in getting the best from your life. She can help you unlock dormant traits to bring you greater awareness. Bonnie also conducts public speaking engagements to educate aspiring astrologers on their journey to the stars. A gifted artist, Bonnie bridges her talents and recently launched a line of Astro Bears, uniquely created in colors of individuals' astrology charts. She also makes one-of-a-kind necklaces of crystal beads and woven thread. To learn more about the world of Bonnie Perbula, go to bonniegperbula.com. And for astrology consulting, visit astrologyconsultants.com or call or email her at 808-526-1536 or bonniegp@aol.com.
Welcome back to EFT for Spiritual Fitness. We're broadcasting live on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and I'm your host, Cathryn Taylor. And in this broadcast, we've been continuing our conversation that I've been having with different people all month, with DK Brainerd, who came on with some astrological hits, and with my friend Nancy Cayley. Both of those will be back for the last two broadcasts of the year. But today we've been talking about obligations and how to make those into choices. And before we took a break, we did a tapping sequence where we began to neutralize the stresses, neutralizing the stresses of the obligations, of the fears of excessively acting out, of all of those emotions, the greed, the competitiveness, the shame, the fear, the sadness, the grief, all of that. And so I'm going to continue the tapping sequence now, and we're going to tap in some positive because we've neutralized the challenge. We want to reinforce your willingness, your right, your ability to really be conscious during this season. So we're continuing on the endpoints. Just come back to your first point and tap about 5 to 6 times while I'm saying the phrase. Repeat the phrase. When you're done repeating, go to the next one, and I'll say a new phrase. All right. I can remain conscious. I choose to remain conscious. I am capable of staying spiritually fit during this season. I know what the protocols are. I know how to stay centered in the center of the storm. I know how to distinguish between the energy of spinning out, that tornadic energy, and the peace and calm when I stay in touch. I know how to do this. I just have to make a choice to do it. I have to remain conscious. I have to set some expectations for myself that are reasonable, that are compassionate. And I choose to do this. I choose to set the goal to wake up December 31st intact, with no need for a makeover, with no need for resolutions, because I have arrived. I have used this holiday season to practice staying in touch with myself, in my heart with others. And I thrived. I did it, and I want to celebrate that fact. What a way to start out 2019, so integrated in my higher self, my illuminated self, and in touch with my inner child. This integration, this spiritual fitness, this remaining conscious is where it's all at. Okay, take a deep breath and really just pause for a moment. Come back and do that thymus thump I was talking about before. Just take your 4 fingers, doesn't matter which hand, and just tap on the thymus. And it's right in the center. It's right in the chest. It's where, if you've done work with EFT and you've tapped on the sore spot, it's right in between those sore spots, just in the center. And that just brings you back in. Now, another tool that I use when I spin out, and I do this to tapping, I just tap on the endpoints, and sometimes I'll just say, the universe resolves this stress now. Or you can say, God resolves this stress now. God resolves this tension now. If you don't like to use the God word, use universe. Use Mother Earth. My higher self. Whatever you resonate with, tap in that energy from the unseen helps you. You don't have to be alone. If you're feeling sad, get support. If you're feeling lonely, go to some support group. Go to some church facilities. Get online, connect that way. Meditate, connect with your higher guardians. Quiet your mind. All these are ways that you can give yourself permission to say no. Give yourself permission to say yes without resentment. That's a radical concept. Path of least resistance. I thought this through. I don't want to put up with the hassle that I would put up with by saying no. It's a choice. I know that there's going to be some tension. I can handle the tension. That's better than handling the backlash. That's making a conscious choice to follow the path of least resistance. Now, DK and I are going to talk a lot more about that. Nancy and I are going to talk a lot more about that. One of them is going to be on my show to celebrate the winter solstice. The winter solstice is the full moon of the year. It's a very powerful day. And my next broadcast is on Thursday, and the winter solstice. Well, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's summer solstice, but that half point where it's the time of the year where there's the most light, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, there's the least light. But it is that time where we can really make our intentions to either come forth or go inward. If you're in the northern hemisphere, we're starting to hibernate. It's a good time to do all of our inner work. And coming off of the holidays intact is a really nice way for you to move forward. So we'll do some ceremony for the summer solstice, and then DK is going to come back on and give us some astrological ideas for what 2019 is going to hold, I did a really nice interview with Echo Bodine, one of my favorite people in the world. And I may take excerpts from that for that first broadcast so that you can get an idea of what to look forward to. The promise is that 2019 is going to be a really good year. We came through a really challenging one. We had a lot of eclipses, we had a lot of retrogrades, but 2019 looks like the time where we can finally capitalize on everything we've been building since 2012, really, since 12/21 of 2012. We've finally arrived where what we've tried to do so many times that didn't work, there's a lot of promise for it to work. If you need more assistance, take advantage of that 15-minute not self-assessment, but the assessment, the free assessment that I offer. You just have to call me at 612-710-7720. I have some end-of-the-year specials that I would jump on my website and get on my e-blast list that I'll be sending out. I'm integrating the TRE with some of my packages, and for the month of January, I'm not charging for any time that I do the TRE. It's an introductory offer, so I get in on that, and just plan to stay connected with yourself. Show up for yourself. Again, give yourself the presence of being present. It's going to be worthwhile. You really want to show up, like I've said all through this broadcast, on December 31st, really feeling connected, calm. That's a vibrational frequency that you want to go into 2019 for. So I look forward to seeing you back here on Bold Brave Media, Global Network, and TuneIn Radio. Next Thursday, I'll be back for EFT, for Spiritual Fitness. Until then, remember, you deserve to feel joy. It's your divine right. So be good to you and to those you love, and the rest will follow.
You've been listening to the mother of inner child work and host of EFT for Spiritual Tapping, Cathryn Taylor. Join us each week and learn spiritual fitness and the art of relaxation for a more peaceful life. Allow joy, receive abundance, and attract healthy relationships on the next episode of Cathryn Taylor's EFT for Spiritual Fitness.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.